Okay. Intro. Take one. How's it going, guys? Steve here. And you know, if I talk like this the whole time just sitting down, it's not gonna work. I've got to figure out a different way to do this. Something that's more spontaneous, more organic. Got to figure out a better way to tell this story. But how? Never did I ever think that I would ever see the day where I would be holding a selfie stick, unironically. I also have no idea why I did this and said it like this when I said selfie stick. But anyway, how's it going, everybody? Steve here. And I can honestly say, it's been a very long time since I've posted any sort of video whatsoever. Last one that I posted was basically me freaking out about turning 30 years old. Since then, I have turned 30 years old, and I can honestly say that being 30 isn't that bad, because the feeling of, holy crap, I'm 30 went away pretty quickly. But, let's just say that a lot has happened since I turned 30 years old. And I wanted to tell you guys and be a little candid and tell you what has been going on. And in part, why I haven't made any videos recently, and why you've been seeing less and less content from me. How do I talk about this? Well, let's just wing it. Alrighty, so a little bit of a change of scenery. I'm gonna be making dinner. Oh, and why am I wearing this hat with a light on it? It's because I was just walking around outside in very cold weather, and with a lot of snow on the ground, taking a look at this. Yesterday, we had our snowstorm in the Chicagoland area. And, yeah, this is how much snow we got. So, this is a giant mountain of snow, but this isn't what's in the middle of the cul-de-sac. That's what's in the middle of the cul-de-sac. Yeah, that's a lot of snow. But, I'm going to be making some dinner tonight, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of some things while I'm doing it. And what are we going to be making for dinner tonight? Well, I've got some wild pink Alaskan salmon fillets, just from the local grocery store. And I'm gonna have a couple of these along with some broccoli and some leftover, or rather I guess not leftover, but just not cooked yet, red lentil and sweet potato pasta. And what I think is one of the most amazing seasonings of all time, Penzeys Mitchell Street steak seasoning. So those of you who have stuck around for a while and watched my channel probably know that for quite a while I was, and don't worry, this pan is oiled, it's just not very easy to see. I was making quite a few film-related and movie review-related videos on a weekly basis for a while, up until I think last July. And then all of a sudden I just stopped posting videos. And I will totally admit, the reason why that happened is because I found myself making a video every week, but on top of a full-time job, and on top of a lot of other responsibilities that I had. And what I realized was that it was taking the fun out of making videos, and not only that, but I realized that I was not enjoying the content I was making, and I didn't think it was up to par with what I wanted to do. So I decided to take some time away from making videos on the weekly schedule, and I decided to go ahead and just take some time to think about what I wanted to do for my channel. And I apologize for doing it without warning. I have a very bad habit of kind of socially dropping off the face of the earth, just in general. Okay. We're putting these in at 6:02. Have to flip in them in about 10 minutes. But anyway. So, yeah, I ended up taking some time away from YouTube. And then after that, I realized that I was going to turn 30 soon. And then I fell into a weird, holy crap, I'm turning 30 type of depression. Came out of that depression, and then was going to get things started again. But then some really weird shit happened that kind of made me have to take even more time away. Before actually getting into that story, though, little weird trick I learned that I thought was going to be BS, but actually works. This obviously isn't really boiling, but if you ever want to, make sure that water doesn't boil over, preferably a wooden spoon, take it and just place it over the center. If it's boiling, it'll most likely keep it from boiling over. I never thought that would actually work, but it does. I guess I will give you guys a brief rundown of what happened. Very early October, not too long after I turned 30, my cousin gets married, and she invited us to the wedding. And we were like, awesome, we should go, especially considering we are vaccinated, and apparently there's a requirement that people have to be vaccinated at this place. And at that time, COVID wasn't nearly as high in terms of cases as it is now, and Omicron wasn't a thing. So we decided to go. And the day we decided to go, it was really, really rainy outside. And my girlfriend, being the amazing woman she is, decided that she was going to drive, but she was going to take my car because, number one, she knows that I do not like driving in heavy rain, and number two, she drives a much larger car than I do, and my car is tiny as shit. So we decided if we're going to the city and we need to find parking, we might as well take the smaller car. She drives us to the place we're going to, into the city, and we're getting off at an exit. And we are getting off at this exit. She's trying to get into a turn lane, but out of nowhere, someone cuts her off. She has to stop, and we stop just fine. But the person behind us, let's just say they were in a very large vehicle with bad tires. And long story short, we got rear-ended. Fortunately, we made it to the wedding on time, and the wedding was awesome, and many congratulations to my cousin and the whole family. But I had to deal with the nightmare of my car being rear-ended and filing insurance claims. And on top of that, the company that I am insured by ended up basically switching my policy over to another company right before this happened. And it caused a bunch of confusion when trying to file the claim. And yeah, I mean, it was a ton of bullshit to go through. That is getting nice and boiling hot, so there we go. And we'll get another one of these guys. This time I'll use one of these. And we'll just stir occasionally. This doesn't have to stay in here very long. This cooks pretty fast, so got a little bit of a time crunch here, but no big deal. But anyway, so keep in mind this was October, and two types of shortages. Number one, labor shortages, and number two, part shortages. So when I tried to find somebody to fix my car and a place to repair my car, because you're going to see this picture here, this is what it looked like. And let's just say that I wasn't about to open my trunk anytime soon because I was scared that I either wouldn't be able to open my trunk or wouldn't be able to close it again. The accident happened on October 2nd. The earliest I could get my car into the shop, not repaired, but into the shop, was November 1st. So basically I was driving around, or basically not driving around because I didn't want to drive the car very much in that condition, with a bashed-in rear bumper. And on top of that, the car didn't actually get fixed until the day after Thanksgiving. Long story short, my car is fixed and it's running just fine, with some minor issues, but it took a very long time to get fixed, and that was stressing me out. Now, I'm not going to pretend it's the worst thing in the world, but at the very same time that was going on, some other things were happening. And before I actually switch over to the other things that happen, just look at this. This medley of amazingness. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I am the best cook ever. I'm not. But this is a great meal. But I've got to go ahead and eat it because I worked out twice today and I'm starving. Oh, my mic is falling off. Well, I guess now is as good a time as any to talk about some of the other things that happened. I have owned this place for a few years now. It's a condo. It's basically a townhome, but the reason why it's a condo is because I only own the inside. I really do like this place as my first place to own on my own, and I appreciate being privileged enough to be a homeowner. But there are definitely stresses that come along with being a homeowner. You are responsible for taking care of the things that are inside the house. This house is a little over 20 years old, and let's just say that a lot of the appliances that were inside of the house when I moved in were the ones that originally came with the house and were originally installed with the house. And let's just say that most appliances nowadays, and a long time ago even, it's rare that they last 20 years. It's often unheard of that they last 20 years. In the middle of the whole car fiasco, it's raining outside and I notice that there's water coming into my utility room. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. And it appears to be dripping from the ceiling. And then I go upstairs and I go to the bathroom really frustrated, and then I go ballistic when I realize where the water's coming from. It's leaking from underneath the toilet. So I collect myself after a small freak out because at this point I had just had enough and I was like, really, what is gonna happen next? So I shut the water off, and luckily I was able to have somebody come out and repair the toilet pretty quickly. It was actually pretty simple to take care of. And normally I like to try and see if I can fix things myself because I've replaced sinks before. I've done some minor home repair myself. I was just fed up to the point where I didn't even want to give this a try, and I was like, I don't really want to mess with a toilet right now. And a couple of days later, I was going to have my furnace inspected because my furnace also came with the house. And the company that installed it is no longer in business. So I was like, all right, let's see what we're looking at to, like, how long this furnace is going to last, if it lasts much longer, and what it's going to take to replace it. I end up having someone coming out to inspect it, and they took a picture of the inside. And I am no HVAC expert, but even as a non-HVAC expert, I could tell you that when I looked at that picture, I was like, holy shit, this isn't going to last much longer. So a guy comes over to my house later that night, he goes over estimates with me, and he's like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set you up. I think it'll fit. I just did these measurements and this unit should fit. It is a more budget unit, but you really don't need the more expensive one. And I'm like, okay, cool. And the next day they come in to install it, and they go through like halfway through the installation, and then afterward they find out that the unit they were going to give me doesn't fit. Now, the silver lining here is that I got a more expensive unit for the same price, which was kind of awesome. But the part that kind of did stink is that they were there all day, and I felt kind of bad because they were like coming all the way out here to do this from a location that I didn't really know until that day was really far away. And they basically spent all day working on it at my house when they probably had other jobs they needed to do. And then immediately after that happened, my doorbell quit working. Hooray! Basically, long story short, a lot of things in the house were starting to show their age, and I needed to kind of jump on fixing them. Which I get it, when you're a homeowner, you need to do that stuff, but it's not exactly fun, especially when you have a bunch of other shit going on. All right, we are going for a ride. I know, I'm committing one of the biggest crimes that you can ever commit as somebody who is taking video on their phone, filming vertically. But I figured that in the car, if I'm filming and I'm driving, that is the absolute safest way, and honestly, I like having my phone vertical so that if I do need to adjust things for GPS or something like that, my phone's not in front of me and I don't have to look down and away from the road. You should always try and be as safe as you possibly can while driving, as I go over a bump of snow. But anyway, where we're going today is we are going to my girlfriend's house. Now, my girlfriend lives about an hour and 15 minutes north of me, and we actually lived together during the pandemic when lockdown started for about 2 months. And basically that was kind of the test to see, okay, we actually can live together. This is going to be a long-lasting thing. So that worked out really, really well. But then she had to actually go back on site for work. So basically since then, we've been kind of doing what we used to do, which is I go to her place one weekend, she goes to my place another, and this weekend it's my turn to go up there. You guys want to hear a song that is hopelessly addictive, that is cheesy as heck? You know what, I think that naturally me checking my mirrors and checking the traffic around me just looks like dancing. So, one thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about as well is something else that ended up happening to me. About a week after the car stuff started, I ended up getting notified by my credit card company that there were suspicious charges on my card. And I looked into it, and those charges absolutely were not made by me. So I ended up closing out the card, getting a new one, disputing the charges, getting that taken care of, etc., etc. And sure as shit, everything seemed to be fine. And that was closed. Didn't think there were any additional problems. Lucas is sleeping on Alicia's slipper. Try not to wake him up. What do you think, honey? Same here. Basically, when I was filming the last video, and when I was talking about what happened after the credit card stuff, I ended up getting onto the highway, and the audio got really terrible. Did not think that through. So, I decided to shoot this part after leaving from my girlfriend's place, and I am currently on the way to go home, which it's going to be a while before I hit the highway. But basically, what ended up happening after the whole credit card thing was I got a call one day from my employer, and my employer notified me that somebody tried to submit an unemployment claim pretending to be me. So the good news is they basically squashed that and they reported it. The bad news is somebody was able to get that claim in, which means effectively somebody's got my identity information. Now, the reason I'm telling you this isn't just to illustrate, oh shit, this happened to me and this is why I wasn't doing stuff for a while and I had to focus on this, because I did. But the other reason why I wanted to let you guys know this happened is because this stuff is happening at a higher level than previously because of, number one, a bunch of data exploits that have happened recently with a lot of companies that almost everybody uses nowadays. Equifax, cough cough, PayPal, hack hack. And the other reason why it's happening is because there are a lot of legitimate unemployment claims being filed due to the pandemic, which that number of unemployment claims being filed is higher than ever before, or at least was. So the rate of fraud of people trying to file fake ones and pretend to be other people has gone up as well, in conjunction with those exploits that happen with companies that have people's personal information. Now, if you go through something like this, you will have to understand that it is an ordeal to go through, and it's going to be tough to get through, and you're going to have to take some action. There are a bunch of things that you definitely have to do, but there are some other things that you should do. And trust me, if you play your cards right, you can get through it, okay? So the very first thing you should do is report it. You should file a claim, and you should get in contact with the unemployment bureau in your state. or rather the Employment Bureau in your state, and let them know that this happened. You can also go to ftc.gov for information on how to handle something like this, and they can give you a step-by-step guide. Another thing you should definitely do is get in contact with the big 3 credit unions in the United States and let them know that this happened to you as well, and you can enact things like fraud alerts and credit freezes. And in addition to that, there are other things that you can do to protect yourself and make smarter decisions. One of the things I will admit that I did is I turned on all notifications that come from my banks and all of my credit lines. I did have notifications turned on, but only for certain limits. Wow, I meant limits. But now I have them turned on for every single solitary thing that can happen. So it is annoying whenever I make a purchase and see that it went through. But if somebody ever tries to do something that is pretending to use my credit or my bank and isn't me, then I'll know about it immediately. The other thing you probably should do is change all your passwords, especially for your email, and turn on multi-factor authentication whenever you actually can. But the biggest thing that you have to understand is that it's going to involve a series of steps that you have to go through. And it's gonna be tough, and it's gonna be stressful. But what you gotta remember is not to panic. You gotta be proactive, and you will get through it. So keep in mind what we got so far. We've got the pandemic going on. We've got basically my car getting its rear bumper smashed in, repair for that taking forever, bunch of appliances in my house breaking and costing me a ton of money to replace, and on top of all that, somebody tries to submit a false unemployment claim in my name and basically gets my identity information and tries to use it against me and for their own personal gain. And keep in mind, this is on top of all the stuff that I normally have to do, and I usually have a pretty, let's call it, filled life. I've got a full-time job. I have to take care of my house in normal capacity like anybody else does. I've got obligations at home and keep my hobbies up. I work out consistently, and I try to cook most of my own food. So I've got a lot of shit going on. But that's not everything. There's more that happened, and you're about to find out what that is shortly. Alright, now let's go ahead and turn this off. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a tank top and shorts in the middle of winter, number one, I'm inside, but number two, I just got done shooting some scenes where I was playing Swole Steve for Steved Season 2, Episode 1. And admittedly, it has been hard to find time to do so, but I've still been able to do it, like today. But anyway, the reason why I am doing this video anyway is to tell you guys about something else that has been going on in the past few months. So, I will admit outright that I have not talked to the people or asked them if it's okay to use their names, exactly who they are, etc. So I'm going to keep that part vague. And I'm going to keep exactly what's going on with them in terms of the actual terms vague. However, what I will say is this. In the past few months, there is somebody who, let's just say they're close to me, who has been going through some medical issues. And don't worry, it is not my girlfriend. It's not her. And it's not me. I'll make that clear right now. Somebody who is close to me in proximity, too. So, basically, they recently found out that they have, let's just call it a medical emergency condition that is going on. And it's the type of thing where we caught it early enough, and if you catch it early enough, and if you take certain steps, then you can nip it in the butt real quick, and it will not become a problem down the road. However, if you wait, or if something goes wrong, or if you miss any of those steps, then things can go horribly wrong, and it can get worse, and it could eventually lead to your death. So, in the past few months, I was taking time to help that person deal with that. And, I mean, I would give them rides, I would help them set things up, I would basically just try to help them out in capacities that I thought I could realistically. And while they are in a lot better place now, their condition has improved, and they're now getting steady treatment to help it go away completely, hopefully. It wasn't exactly like that at the beginning, or even, I'd say, like a month ago. There were a lot of bumps in the road, and it was very stressful dealing with that in line with all of the other things that I normally deal with, and in addition to all the other things that I mentioned previously in this video. For example, one thing that ended up happening was they had to have a procedure done on them. That procedure, basically for recovery purposes, would normally put somebody in an ICU bed for probably a few days before they can leave the hospital. This person was barely in the ICU one day after this procedure was done. There were so many people who weren't vaccinated, who were getting sick, that there were only 3 ICU beds left in the hospital. Actually, it was 3 ICU beds left in the county. Not in the hospital, in the county. They ended up going back home after that. They had another emergency come up, so we had to take them to the ER. Because it was that type of thing. It couldn't wait. And it was so bad that, number one, we couldn't stay with them. We had to leave them there because visitors weren't allowed. And number two, the hospital was so overcrowded and there were so many people in that they didn't even leave the emergency room and get a room until a day and a half after we took them in. They were literally sitting in the ER for a day and a half. So that was a very frustrating thing. Luckily, they did not get any sicknesses on top of whatever they were experiencing from just sitting in the ER, which is what we were really scared of. The reason why I'm even bringing this up is because this condition this person has, they really cannot get sick right now. And they really couldn't get sick then. Number one, if they got sick, let's say they got sick with something as small as a cold. If that happened with the condition they were in, they could have died. Now, let's say they didn't die. Let's say it didn't affect them that much. It would have stalled their treatment plan. It would have thrown everything off course, and there would be a very good chance that the medical situation that they were going through could get a lot worse really fast. So, I don't mean this to be a sob story or anything like that. I'm not trying to say justice for all people who go through this or something like that. But what I am saying is, I don't think people are thinking about this before they decide not to get vaccinated, or before they decide to have large gatherings maskless when there's a resurgence in COVID-19 and when there's a new variant. One of the things I also want to say is that I don't really understand the mindset of people who are still refusing to get vaccinated or boosted. I know that bully tactics won't work on you, so I'm not going to say fuck you for putting this person in the hospital. And I'm not going to say fuck you for making them sit in the ER for a day and a half instead of being able to get a room. Because make no mistake, the people who are getting that sick are the people who haven't gotten vaccinated. I understand your hesitancy at the beginning, because I was hesitant at the beginning to get vaccinated. It's not that I didn't necessarily want it. For a while I was kind of iffy on if it would work, and also I would kind of assumed that I would be one of the last people who would be able to get it because of my age and my health. But that hesitancy went away. And I would understand the idea of wanting to wait and see how it affects other people. We already have that information. We've had it for a very long time. And trust me, I understand the whole idea and concept of it's my right to do what I want. or not have to do something I don't want. It's my right to determine what goes in my body. And you know what? On an individual basis, you're right. I mean, trust me, I'm not proud of this, but I used to be one of those kind of, I don't want to say self-centered, but like somebody who says, do not ever stop people from doing what they want to do. The idea is that as long as it's not hurting anybody, then they should be able to do whatever the hell they want, right? Well, guess what I found out as I got older? Almost anything you do can have an effect on somebody else, whether it's negative or positive. So when you say it is your right not to wear a mask, when there is a mandate saying that you have to wear a mask, keep in mind you're not just affecting you, you're affecting the people around you. When you make a choice saying, I'm not going to get vaccinated because I don't want to put a vaccine in my body, keep in mind that, for lack of better words, you're kind of screwing the rest of us out of getting somewhat back to normalcy. And what I think often is happening now, and this is one of the things that I love America and the United States because we do have freedom. And freedom is an amazing thing to have. And freedom is something that so many other people don't have to the level that we do. However, when it gets to the point of confusing personal freedom with selfishness, that's when it becomes a problem. For some reason, a lot of people in the United States have this unrealistic viewpoint of where the line between personal freedom and complete selfishness actually is. And because of that, we often make decisions that unintentionally end up hurting other people. And I know that I'm going on a long tirade, but all I'm asking is please, if you're somebody who is not vaccinated, please get vaccinated. I understand where you used to come from, but now it's very hard for me to. Basically because the evidence is right there in front of us that it works. I know that I'm probably not going to change your mind. It would be great if I could, but I know I probably won't. And I can't control that. All I can control is how I react to it. And I can try and influence you. And I can control what I say in response to it. And what I say in response to it is, I really hope that either A, you change your mind before things get bad, and that you change your mind before this affects you in a super negative way. And number two, I'm hoping that you don't end up having to do that because someone in your family died, or someone in your family got mind-numbingly sick, or that you got mind-numbingly sick. I really hope that you come to your senses before that happens. But yeah. Gotta love these long webcam videos, huh? Well, here we are back where we started. And considering I'm wearing completely different clothes and the lighting's different, it's pretty obvious that it was a different day. This video took a long time to make. And I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea how to end this thing. You know, there is this quote that is actually imprinted on this picture above my bed in my bedroom. and it's attributed to Winston Churchill. Now, I'm pretty sure he actually said it, but who knows, maybe the person who made that picture had their history wrong. But I think the quote still holds value. If you're going through hell, keep going. If you're going through a rough patch, keep going and you're going to get through it. And keep in mind that things could be worse. I mean, my car got its rear bumper smashed in, but it could have been completely totaled. It could have been a situation where I wouldn't have been able to afford to fix my car. Or, worse, we could have gotten hurt. Another thing that could have happened is the person who I was talking about most recently, who had the medical issues, we could have found them too late. We could have been unable to afford treatment. All of the issues that I mentioned that I was going through in these past few months, none of them are good, but they could have been a lot worse. They could have had a lot worse outcomes. And at the end of the day, I'm still breathing. I'm still above ground and I'm still breathing. And I think that's worth celebrating. So if you ever go through a rough time and you don't know how to talk about it with people, keep in mind, considering there's going to be somebody who actually stuck around to the end of this video, there's going to be somebody who will be willing to listen to you, no matter how long and drawn out your story is. Thank you very much for watching. No matter how long you watched, thank you. And, as always, have a great night, and I'll see you later.